First things first, I want to show you my new fidget spinner. Looks so cool. I bought it at Autscape, so it basically fits me perfectly. Yeah, okay. Where to start? I'm just going to begin. Hey everyone, my name is Jen, aka jentherainboww, and I make videos on YouTube about autism and ADHD, but by now you already may know that. So if you would like to support me, please subscribe to my channel and also turn on the notification button so you won't miss any of my videos. That would be really great. Thank you so much. And if you know someone else who might benefit from my information, let them know as well. So it has been a little while since I've sat down to talk to you like this. I wanted to give you a proper update on how things have been going because a lot has happened these past few months and I feel like we haven't really caught up in depth for a while. So grab a drink, get comfy, because this is going to be one of those longer chats. I'm going to talk about my diagnosis which happened earlier in April, I think. I'm also going to talk about my trip to Autscape, how I'm doing with burnout and recovery, and also some personal stuff around trauma with the correct trigger warnings in place, of course. And also a few things that are coming up for me. So basically, it's going to be a life update with all the messy human bits included. So back in April, I was officially diagnosed with autism and ADHD, which for me wasn't a surprise. I've known for a while that I am what people call ADHD, so autistic and ADHD combined, but having the formal diagnosis still meant something. It felt like the professionals finally believed me, and a formal diagnosis qualifies me for actual accommodations, which I really am in need of. So a little bit about the process. It was actually a lot more validating than I expected. If you have had experiences with healthcare before, especially mental health care, you know it's not always that great or downright a traumatic, horrible mess. But in this case, I really felt like the professionals actually listened to me. They didn't dismiss my experiences or try to fit me into a pre-decided box. They gave me questionnaires. They took a broad look at my history and they took my words seriously. And that in itself feels really rare. And even though I already knew that I was autistic, hearing someone else say it and have it in writing felt like extra confirmation. It's like, okay, this is what's going on. I'm not overreacting. This is real. And I wouldn't say to someone that is self-diagnosed or identified that they are imagining them being autistic, for example, or ADHD. But for me, I really needed the confirmation, and that is also valid, right? And here's the thing. When the process is done well, a diagnosis doesn't just give you a label. It gave me some sort of permission to use my tools, even though you never have to pursue a formal diagnosis in order to use your tools. Let me be clear about that. I have always had to navigate the world in my own way, but now I have words for why I do things differently, and I allow myself to come to terms with that, like a little bit more. And that was the struggle, actually. I still compare myself with other people though, but now I have a better sense of what is realistic and what is not. And I can research autism and ADHD and feel that it applies to me. I can adjust my routines, my environment, my relationships based on an actual understanding of my brain and not just trial and error. And there is something incredibly powerful about that kind of self-validation because we talk a lot about needing validation from other people, which is important, but self-validation can change everything in my experience. It means I no longer have to waste energy doubting myself or trying to prove my struggles are real, mostly to myself. It will depend on in which environments I am in with others, if I still will have that feeling, if that makes sense, that I need to prove myself, but overall it has gotten a lot better. It just frees up a little bit more energy to actually live my life instead of constantly justifying it. And not long after that, I went to Autscape again. So that was last week, actually. If you have been following me for a while, you probably remember I have been there before, and I actually made a video about it. If you haven't seen that one yet, I will link it somewhere, I think in the description box below, because it explains what Autscape is. And the cool thing is, this time it wasn't the same kind of shock to my system as it was before. Because usually being in such a different environment, one that is designed for autistic ways of being, really highlights the gap between that and the real world. But this year, the gap felt smaller. And I think that's because I have gotten more used to being in autistic spaces, more comfortable around accommodating myself, and I know more about my own needs. I still learned a lot though, especially around how we process the world differently, often in a monotropic way. So if you're curious about what monotropism means, I really recommend the channel I Am Autistic Now What? They have a great video on it. And I might actually make my own video about it one day and talk about how it shows up in my life, because applied knowledge is better than just theory, right? But overall, Autscape was just really nice. That's also where I got the fidget spinner from. I got to see people I really care about, and it felt good to reconnect without that overwhelming sense of difference. It felt a little bit more like the two worlds, the autistic one and the neuronormative one, weren't so far apart. So right now, I'm still in recovery from autistic burnout, and if you have been there, you know it's not something you can just push through and be fine. I'm really trying to figure out a way of living that actually works for me, rather than forcing myself into a mold that's built for someone else or non-autistic people. And I know that's tricky in a neuronormative world. We experience the world differently by default. Our senses, our focus, our energy levels, and the way we communicate. And I need to find a way to support myself in all sorts of ways, but also financially, without constantly burning out. And that's the thing I'm trying to solve at the moment. I know that it won't go without a struggle to find a job that actually suits my needs, but at least I am more aware of what I need. And I think I might actually make a clear list about what I expect in a job, and also where I could compromise so that I know what I can or can't take. And that might actually be helpful to my analytical brain. So I'm also going on holiday again soon, and honestly, I'm giving myself full permission to just rest. No big plans, no huge adventures, just actual recovery time. I might do things that I like, but not do things because I have to do them, like forcing myself to do stuff. Because I have been through so much these last few years, and I'm finally in a place where I can slow down and not feel an awful lot of guilt about it. And I want to give myself permission to be unproductive, basically, to not have every moment filled, and to actually notice the small things, like how the light changes during the day, the process of ebb and flow, or the smell of the sea. And I also want to watch some wildlife, stuff like that. And I know some people see holidays as a treat you have to earn, but for me, this is more like medicine. My body and my brain needed to heal, and I think a lot of us, especially autistic and ADHD folks, underestimate how much recovery time we truly need after life has been, well, a lot. So I'm hoping to come back feeling more grounded, maybe with a bit more mental space to figure out the next steps in my life, but I'm also trying to take the pressure off. If all I do is rest and eat nice food, that's a win. Trigger warning, I'm going to talk about trauma here, no details, but more about recovering and feeling in the body. If this is triggering for you, please skip to 12:55. And speaking of the last few months, by the way, I've got a lot of trauma I'm only now really starting to unpack. I've been carrying this stuff for so long that I didn't even realize how much of it had become part of my daily life. And now I am starting to actually feel safer in my own body. It makes me feel safer. It makes me feel like I finally can explore my feelings and give space to my body to feel things and not just survive. And it's beautiful, but it's also exhausting and overwhelming, scary. And I know generally it's a good sign because it means I'm no longer numb to it. Because in order to function, you're always going to suppress the trauma in a way to survive. But my body and mind are starting to trust that it's safe enough to unpack those memories and emotions. But it's also hard because when you stop suppressing it, you really feel it in your body, in your thoughts, in the way you respond to the world, for example. And for me, healing from trauma isn't just about talking it through in therapy. It's about learning to feel safe in my own skin again. It's noticing when I am tensing my shoulders or holding my breath without realizing. It's also about learning where I feel something in my body because alexithymia is a real thing I used to struggle with. And now I dare to say that I am more connected to my body and what it means to feel. And I also experience lack of huge emotions sometimes, like a lack of huge emotions, I think, which I mistake for disassociation. But it's actually just a calm sense of experiencing life. Like the threat has disappeared and I feel like my body, or me, actually, I am my body in a way, but let's not get philosophical here. It needs to find a way to recognize that emotion, and it hasn't done that yet because it didn't know what calm and safe feels like. You know what I'm saying? And I have also had to let go of the idea that healing means going back to who I was before, because the truth is, trauma changes you. And part of the work is figuring out who I am right now and how to build a life that works for this version of me, not some past version. And honestly, I'm still right in the middle of it, actually. Some days feel lighter, some days are really heavy, but I can say this, I feel more in my body now than I have in years. And I'm not just a brain dragging a body around. That is kind of beautiful, even when it's painful. I've actually noticed that I tried recording another piece of this script, or not necessarily script, but my life, and it didn't record. So I'm going to talk about this anyways. I'm still going to grab my spinner. I'm going to take my headphones off, by the way. So yeah, I actually want to wrap the video up. I've got to admit, making videos like this still takes a lot of me, or a lot out of me energy-wise, because it's not that I don't enjoy talking with you, because I do, but it can be a real drain to edit the videos and find words and also really connect with the words, especially if I'm scripting. That's what I said in my last video before, I think, about information processing, that it's really hard to do a video when it's not scripted because this is not my native language. So that makes it more challenging for me, or then it's more challenging for me to find words. And I think you don't mind, but it is a serious challenge I struggle with. So yeah, it's always about finding this balance between scripting things, but also talking, letting the words come to you, like that difference, that's hard. But at Autscape, I've heard that that's not only that's not only happening when you don't speak the language. Like a lot of people there still speak English and also have it that they don't find the words and their brain is not braining. So you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily only because I don't speak the language. It's also about being autistic and processing things differently and words not coming up in my brain sometimes. I think that also might be part of it. But yeah, this, like, it taking so much energy from me is also the reason why my uploads aren't super frequent, but I still hope you're around to hear me talk about stuff. Because staying connected with you still means a lot to me, and every comment you leave and every message you send, it really does make a difference and reminds me why I keep coming back to share on this platform. So I thought I would sit down today and just cover a bunch of things in one go, so you're up to date with where I am at and what's been going on behind the scenes. So that's where I'm at. I'm diagnosed, I'm recovering, learning, resting, processing, and it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Ironic because of my name. But there is progress, and I'm grateful that you're here for the journey, and I hope you might relate to what I have to say as well, because that might make you feel less alone, I think. So if you want to check out my Autscape video or that monotropism video, I never know how to say that in English, but whatever. I'll link both of them in my description box down below. And if you relate to anything I've talked about, feel free to share your experiences in the comments because I'd love to hear from you. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.